Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. 9 years ago, James believed his marriage ended because of a single misunderstanding. At least, that was the story he told himself. At least, that was the story everyone else believed. What no one ever heard was my side. My name is Elizabeth, and for almost a decade, I lived quietly with the weight of a divorce that was never fully explained. James and I met in our late 20s. He was steady, thoughtful, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. I was ambitious, talkative, always planning the next step. We balanced each other. Our marriage wasn't flashy, but it was warm. Sunday mornings meant coffee on the porch. Weeknights meant shared dinners, even when we were tired. I thought we were building something lasting. The problems didn't start with betrayal or cruelty. They started with silence. James took a demanding role at work. Long hours turned into late nights. Conversations became shorter, more functional. I tried to adjust. I told myself marriages go through seasons. When I reached for him, he seemed distracted, distant, like his mind was always somewhere else. Then came the misunderstanding that changed everything. A message appeared on James's phone one evening while he was in the shower. A man's name I didn't recognize. A sentence taken out of context. When he came out, I asked him about it, calmly at first. He looked startled, then defensive. He said it was nothing work-related and brushed it off too quickly. I should have pushed harder. I should have asked him to sit down, to talk. Instead, I hesitated. I didn't want to seem insecure. That hesitation cost me my marriage. Over the next few weeks, James pulled away completely. He stopped coming home on time. He stopped looking at me when I spoke. When I tried to explain that the message didn't mean what it looked like, he cut me off. He said trust, once broken, never fully returns. He never asked to see the full conversation. He never gave me the chance to explain where the message actually came from. If you've ever felt misunderstood in a relationship, tap like, so this story can reach others who've lived through quiet heartbreak. The night he asked for a divorce was calm, almost polite. No shouting, no tears, just paperwork and distance. I remember standing in the kitchen, hands resting on the counter, listening to him explain why this was for the best. I remember wanting to scream that he was wrong, that he was walking away from a life we hadn't even tried to save. After the divorce, James moved on quickly. New city, new job, eventually a new wife. I stayed where I was. Same apartment, same routines. Friends told me to let it go, to stop replaying the past. They didn't understand that I wasn't holding on to him. I was holding on to the truth. Every year that passed made the silence heavier. The misunderstanding followed me into new relationships. I struggled to trust that someone would actually listen if things went wrong. I learned how deeply damaging it is to be judged without being heard. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if James ever doubted his decision, if he ever paused and thought about the woman he left without answers. If this part of the story resonates with you, leave a comment and share what you think hurts more, betrayal or being unheard. 9 years later, I was not expecting to see his name again, but one quiet afternoon, an unfamiliar email appeared in my inbox. The subject line was simple. Elizabeth, just my name. Seeing it made my chest tighten. I stared at the screen for a long time before opening it, unaware that the past I had buried was about to resurface in ways I never imagined. I didn't know whether the message held regret, anger, or something else entirely. All I knew was that the misunderstanding he never questioned had finally circled back to me, and whatever waited inside that email would force both of us to face the truth we avoided. That moment was the beginning of an ending neither of us could escape forever. I opened the email slowly, as if speed might make the words hurt more. James wrote that he had been thinking about the past, about mistakes, about unanswered questions. He said he had recently come across something that unsettled him, something that made him wonder if he had been wrong all those years ago. He didn't apologize. Not yet. He simply asked if I would be willing to talk. I didn't reply that day. I sat with the email, rereading it, feeling old emotions rise in unfamiliar ways. I wasn't angry anymore. I was cautious, Time had softened the pain, but it had also hardened my boundaries. I agreed to meet him in a quiet cafe near the river, neutral ground. Nothing nostalgic. James looked older, thinner. His confidence hadn't disappeared, but it was muted. After a few minutes of small talk, he told me why he reached out. His divorce from his second wife had been messy. During it, an old email chain surfaced, one forwarded by mistake from years ago. It included a message that had ended our marriage, followed by the rest of the conversation he had never bothered to read. The message wasn't romantic. It wasn't secretive. It was from a colleague asking for advice during a difficult time. My reply had been compassionate. Nothing more. Context made it painfully clear. James stared at the table as he spoke, voice low. He said he realized he had filled in gaps with his own fears instead of facts. If you believe misunderstandings can destroy good things, comment the word clarity below. I listened without interrupting. For the first time, he was doing the same. He admitted he had been overwhelmed back then, insecure about a career, afraid of losing control. Walking away felt easier than staying and being wrong. He said the realization had been haunting him. He wanted to know if there was any chance to make things right. That question didn't land the way he expected. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt calm. I told him the truth. The marriage ended long before the paperwork. Not because of the message, but because he chose certainty over communication. I explained what those years had been like for me. Carrying blame that wasn't mine. Rebuilding trust from the ground up. James apologized then. Fully. No justifications. No excuses. It mattered more than I expected, but not in the way he hoped. Closure doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes it just means release. If this story stirred something in you, consider sharing it with someone who might need reassurance that their voice matters. We parted respectfully. No promises. No lingering looks. As I walked away, I felt lighter than I had in years. The misunderstanding no longer defined me. It was simply a chapter, not the whole book. Later that evening, I reflected on how easily silence becomes permanent when people avoid uncomfortable conversations. I thought about how many relationships end not from betrayal, but from assumptions left unchecked. What would you have done differently if you were in James's place? Share your thoughts in the comments. I don't regret loving him. I regret how little space there was for listening. Time taught me that being heard is not a luxury. It's a necessity. And anyone unwilling to offer it isn't ready for partnership. James reached out once more weeks later, thanking me for meeting him, saying the conversation helped him understand himself better. I wished him well and meant it. There was no bitterness left to carry forward. 9 years after our divorce, the misunderstanding finally lost its power, not because he realized the truth, but because I had already moved beyond needing him to. If this story resonated with you, like the video, comment one word that describes how it made you feel, and subscribe for more real stories about love, loss, and clarity.